So we have 4 frontline trials that have enrolled with data that are within the next year, probably imminent. Okay, Sola 1, okay,
Right.
3005 with veliparib, Paola 1, and now Checkpoint, Javelin 100. So tell us about.
Well, Prima's the
But it won't report within the year.
You're right.
So
You're
that my thesis, because I think people want to know what's around the corner.
Yeah.
Prima is around 2 corners. so tell us about Javelin 100.
Yeah, so Javelin 100 is
That's the 4th trial that we report in the next year. 3005, Sola 1, Paola, and Javelin 100.
So once again, platinum doublet with paclitaxel. We're looking at avulimab that was in, you received it with the chemotherapy and as maintenance versus placebo. So when we're
no placebo, actually, but that's okay.
Oh, you're right. It was
That's
not
all right.
placebo. It was open label. So from that standpoint, that's just the checkpoint, not the Bev, not the PARP.
Right.
So we're hoping to hear that within the next year also.
Yeah. Isn't that great?
It's going to be an exciting time coming up.
We might even get to do another one of these.
You think?
Hopefully
Or
have
maybe-
us back. Have us back. I didn't mean to pound the desk. I'm sorry. It probably hurt someone's ears. So Ursula, you talk about these other trials. You said we got all these other trials. And really what these other trials that you're talking about, because you talk Bev PARP. What about PD-1, PD-L1 and PARP? Tell us about that now.
So there is some preclinical data, as well as now some data in the recurrent setting, that placing together a PARP inhibitor plus an immuno-oncology agent, PD-1, PD-L1, is going to give you enhanced benefits. I think synergy, I'm not so sure that synergy has been documented, but certainly enhanced benefits of these agents together. In fact, the Topacio data in the recurrent setting is being presented today at the Society of Gynecologic Oncology.
Which is TSR 042 and also niraparib.
Correct. Actually, so that's where I think the next step is. Today is pembrolizumab plus niraparib.
Right,
correct.
okay, thank you.
And so showing the safety, tolerability, enhanced response rates have now allowed these doublets to be layered into chemotherapy. So there's several trials now in development, and I know you've been involved in a number of them in terms of the development of these studies, of asking the questions about IO, immuno-oncology, use of PARP inhibitors out back, clearly, unless you're using a drug like veliparib, because of that enhanced myelosuppression, and then bevacizumab. So and without that bevacizumab approval in the United States, a lot of these studies are saying, plus or minus Bev. Some are mandating Bev, especially if the trial's also being done in Europe. So there are a lot of really interesting questions that are being posed.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I say. The era of targeted therapy is here. We got Bev, bevacizumab, anti-angiogenesis, a PARP inhibitor, now IO, and combinations make sense. Combinations make sense, at least theoretically, that this homologous recombination repair deficiency might increase the neoantigen load.
Correct.
And I was really, really intrigued by a recent publication in uroepithelial tumors. I get it that they are intrinsically more responsive to checkpoint inhibition than ovarian cancer. But in uroepithelial tumors, HRD predicts response. HRD genes, DDR genes, same thing. And so that at least seemed to add more fuel to the hypothesis that requires future testing. So you can imagine, right? So you mentioned avelumab. Avelumab's an asset by a particular company that also shares telezoparib. There you go. So guess what they're going to do? And you mentioned niraparib. Their asset is TSR 042.
That's
so
right.
that company, that's obvious. Olaparib, the company that owns olaparib, has durvalumab. Pretty simple. Guess what they're going to do? I love it. And so we're going to need your help to get these trials enrolled. The fourth opportunity, the company that owns rucaparib doesn't have a checkpoint inhibitor, but the company that owns nivolumab doesn't have a PARP inhibitor. So maybe they should work together. So there's another
Perhaps.
opportunity.
Right, exactly.
And this comes back. This comes back to there are only so many patients with ovarian cancer in the United States, and we have all these unbelievably exciting combinations in clinical trial. Should we be doing HIPEC? Clearly not ready for for the big time here, right? Or should we be getting these patients on clinical trials, which has a higher chance of actually
Yes.
curing them?
Yes.
Curing them, not giving 3-month progression-free survival, 4-month, excuse me.
So you can create a Venn diagram, right? So PARP-BEV, IO-PARP. How about BEV-IO? Because there are 3 agents. And I'm going to ask you about how about all 3. We'll get there in a minute. But bevacizumab plus a PD-1 or a PD-L1, is that being done?
Yeah, it is.
Tell us.
It's ongoing.
Tell us.
Imagine 50.
Imagine 50.
So taking your chemo, getting your bevacizumab, and then plus or minus atezolizumab.
So the beauty of the FDA approval, if that happens, of GOG 218 frontline bevacizumab, it protects the control arm of Payola-1, and it protects the control arm of Imagine 50 because it's chemotherapy Bev. So heretofore, they were doing a randomized trial where the control arm was not FDA approved. But if it does get FDA approved, then it simplifies that clinical trial design really in a leapfrog sort of fashion. I love it.
It really builds upon that the trials that we're talking about, 213 and ICON 7. I mean, we really are
Which are right.
which are the upfront
218,
Bev.
218,
218, I misspoke. I thank you. So when we look at this, again, getting these patients using combination therapy, identifying those patients who are going to benefit the most because these biomarkers are now ready for prime time, HRD, and those in the BRCA, obviously.
So you may have seen so bevacizumab labeled in other tumor types, and the atezolizumab bevacizumab combination that's being studied in Imagine 50 is now more advanced in other tumor types. So I watch these. Classic example is renal cell carcinoma.
That was very exciting data.
Right, so the combination of atezolizumab bevacizumab in renal cell and quite frankly in lung cancer, again in lung cancer both of those molecules and pathways are approved. There's also an opportunity there that synergy is being suggested. So there might be something of a bevacizumab checkpoint inhibitor combination, and the science I think is farther along than PARP-IO, but it's interesting.
So for atezo-bev or other IO-bev, there are smaller phase 2 concepts ongoing in recurrent cervical cancer. And there's a CTEP trial of atezo-bev. We're doing a nivolumab bevacizumab study. So
We have one in endometrial cancer.
Well, I was going to say the most
there's
exciting is
those-
endometrial.
I think
That's
endometrial
right,
cancer is
exactly,
going to be
that's
a
right. So those are all
nice
coming
mix,
into play. Right.
So for endometrial cancer, lenvatinib,
Absolutely,
which
correct.
is an
Yep,
oral
yep.
anti-angiogenesis molecule with pembrolizumab, has shown really astounding, unprecedented. Let me take the emotion out of it. Unprecedented. I get excited.
I think you can put some emotion.
You should get excited. You should get excited. for that.
Unprecedented phase 2 activity in second-line endometrial cancer after failing carboplatin paclitaxel.